Good evening. The day has ended. The light has faded. And now, in this moment, you have permission to rest, to slow down, to let the world outside continue without you for a while. Tonight, we're going back to the year 1350. We are traveling not through space, but through time. Back before electricity hummed through walls, before engines turned over in the cold, before the constant glow of screens. We are going to a world lit only by fire, warmed only by breath and flame and the patient earth itself. Outside, the world feels frozen. There is no movement but the wind, no sound but its low, steady voice as it moves across the land. The sky is heavy, grey, thick with the weight of snow that has already fallen and snow yet to come. The wind moves across empty fields, carrying snow so thick it blinds the eye within seconds. If you were standing in that wind right now, you would not last long. The cold would find every gap in your clothing. It would numb your fingers first, then your face, then deeper. The snow would sting your eyes until you had to close them. And in the whiteness, in the cold, direction would become meaningless. The cold presses against the land, steady and relentless, as if winter itself has settled in and refuses to leave. This is not the kind of cold that relents at midday, not the cold that sunshine can soften. This is the cold of deep winter, the kind that seeps into stone, into wood, into bone, the kind that makes the ground ring like iron when you strike it, the kind that turns breath to frost before it leaves your lips. But somewhere in the distance, there is a small glow. Your eyes, scanning the endless white, catch it, a flicker, a warmth, so small it barely registers against the vastness of the frozen landscape. A single window, not large, not bright, just a soft amber glow pressing gently against the dark. It does not announce itself. It does not shout. It simply exists. A quiet promise, a sign of life, a single fire. Inside that glow, there is heat. There is shelter. There is the scent of smoke and bread and bodies pressed close together. There is survival. And inside that firelight, life continues. Not dramatically, not urgently, but steadily, quietly, with the rhythm of routine, of hands that know their work, of mouths that know when to speak and when to stay silent, of hearts that beat slower here because they must last longer. Tonight, we are not rushing through history. We will not skim over centuries. We will not leap from event to event, searching for excitement or drama. There are no kings here tonight, no battles, no grand declarations, just the simple, profound act of enduring. We are stepping inside it. Imagine the ground beneath your feet changing, the cold air shifting, the sound of wind fading as walls rise around you. A roof closes overhead, the light grows warmer, and you are no longer outside looking in. You are here. We are going to spend this night together, inside a small peasant cottage, listening to the storm, feeling the warmth, and learning how ordinary people survived when winter was at its cruelest. These were not warriors, not nobles, not people whose names were written into records or carved into stone. They were farmers, labourers, people who rose before dawn and worked until dusk, people who knew the weight of a hoe, the smell of turned earth, the ache of cold hands, people whose survival depended not on wealth or power, but on knowledge, patience, endurance. So take a slow breath. Let the air fill your lungs completely. Feel your chest rise. Hold it for just a moment. Then release it, slowly. Let your shoulders drop. Let the tension you've been carrying begin to ease. Let your shoulders relax. There is no urgency here, no deadline, no task that cannot wait. You have entered a different kind of time now, a time measured not in seconds, but in breaths, in heartbeats, in the slow crackle of burning peat. Step out of the cold and come sit by the fire. It is easy to romanticize medieval winters. We have been taught to see them through stained glass, through tapestries, through poems written by people who never felt true cold. We imagine feasts in great halls, minstrels singing, lords and ladies dancing by firelight. We picture snow resting gently on rooftops, soft candlelight, quiet nights filled with peace. We imagine a world softened by snow, made beautiful by frost, a world where winter is an inconvenience perhaps, but never a threat, where the cold can be banished by simply adding another log to the fire, where food is always abundant, where sleep is always warm. But the reality of winter in 1350 was something very different. If you lived through a medieval winter, truly lived through it, not as a lord in a stone castle, but as a peasant in a cottage made of mud and sticks, you understood something we have largely forgotten. You understood that winter was not picturesque, it was not romantic, it was not an adventure. Winter was not a season, it was a siege. It began in late autumn, with the first frost that blackened the remaining crops. It arrived with shorter days and longer nights, with rain that turned to sleet, then to snow. And once it arrived, it did not leave. For months, it held the land in its grip, unrelenting, patient, waiting for mistakes. For months at a time, the cold surrounded your home, testing your supplies, your body, and your resolve. Every day, it pressed against the walls. It crept through cracks. It stole heat from the fire. It made your fingers stiff, your joints ache, your breath visible even indoors. And every day, you had to push back, with fuel, with food, with layers of wool and the warmth of other bodies. Winter was not something you defeated. It was something you endured. If you were a peasant in 14th century Europe, you did not have central heat. There was no thermostat on the wall, no furnace rumbling to life when the temperature dropped, no radiators hissing steam into cold rooms, no electric blankets, no heated floors. You did not have insulation or supermarkets or warm clothing delivered to your door. The walls around you were made of earth and straw. The roof above you was thatch, dried grass and reeds bundled together. The floor beneath you was dirt, packed hard by years of footsteps. And when winter came, you could not order supplies. You could not run to a store. You could not call for help. You had this room, this single space, these four walls, this one fire, this small collection of bodies and animals and stored food. This was your world, and it had to be enough. You had what you harvested before the frost arrived. Every turnip, every cabbage, every sack of grain, every salted fish, every pot of honey. Everything had to be gathered, preserved, stored, and rationed. Because once winter arrived, nothing grew. Nothing could be hunted easily, and nothing could be bought, because there was nothing to buy. And you had the people beside you, your family, your neighbors, the animals in the corner, everyone who shared this small space, their warmth, their breath, their labor, their company. Survival was not individual, it was collective. You lived together or you did not live at all. Tonight, we are going to slow everything down. We are going to resist the urge to rush, to summarize, to move quickly from one fact to the next. Instead, we are going to linger, to notice, to feel the weight of time as it actually passed in this room. We are going to match the rhythm of life in this cottage, a rhythm dictated not by clocks, but by light and darkness, by hunger and fullness, by cold and warmth, a rhythm that moved like breath, in, out, steady, constant, unhurried. We will look closely at how warmth was created, how food became fuel, and how survival depended on routine, patience, and quiet endurance. We will see that survival in 1350 was not about bravery, not about strength or cleverness or luck. It was about repetition, about doing the same small tasks day after day without fail, about knowing when to work and when to rest, about never wasting heat or food or energy. There is no war tonight. The 100 Years' War rages elsewhere. Armies march across distant fields, but not here, not tonight. Here, there is only the wind, no plague. The Black Death will come soon. It will sweep across Europe like a shadow, taking 1 in 3. But tonight, it has not yet arrived. Tonight, the only enemy is cold. No taxes. The Lord's men will come in spring. They will demand grain, labor, coin. But winter is a kind of truce. A pause. The land is frozen. The roads are impassable. And so, for now, there is only survival. Only the wind outside and the warmth within. The wind howls. It has been howling for hours, perhaps days. Its voice is constant. Sometimes it rises to a shriek. Sometimes it falls to a low moan. But it never stops. Outside it scours the land. It piles snow in drifts. Taller than a man. It steals heat from anything exposed. But inside the walls hold. The fire burns. And life continues. We are going to survive this night together. You and I. The family in this cottage. The cow in the corner. The chickens roosting in the rafters. The fire on the hearth. All of us. We will make it to morning. Not because we are strong, but because we are careful, patient, because we understand what winter demands and we are willing to give it. Look down at your feet. Take a moment. Let your eyes adjust to the dim light. The fire casts long, shifting shadows across the floor. Look down. You are standing on packed earth strewn with dried rushes and straw. Not wood, not tile, not stone. Just earth. Hard earth. The same earth that exists outside beneath the snow. But here, it has been compressed by years of footsteps. It is smooth in places, uneven in others, worn into gentle slopes and hollows by the daily paths people take, from the door to the fire, from the fire to the bed, from the bed to where the animals sleep. The rushes crunch softly beneath your weight. They are dry, brittle. They release a faint grassy smell when disturbed. They have been scattered here to absorb moisture, to provide a thin layer between foot and earth, to make the floor slightly softer, slightly warmer. But notice something important, something that would be easy to miss if you were not paying attention, something that speaks to the quiet intelligence of people who had no choice but to understand cold. When you entered the cottage, you likely had to step down. Not much, just a foot. Perhaps 2, but definitely down. The floor of this cottage is below the level of the ground outside, and this is not an accident. Many peasant homes in this era were built partially sunken into the earth. In some places, the floor might be 3 feet below ground level. In others, even deeper. When the cottage was built, the earth was excavated, dug out, removed, and the home was nestled into the depression left behind. This was not careless construction. It was deliberate. Every choice in building this cottage was made for a reason. The placement, the materials, the size of the windows, the thickness of the walls. Nothing was random. Nothing was merely decorative. Every element served the single essential purpose of keeping the people inside alive. It was thermal engineering, not the kind taught in universities, not the kind written in books, but the kind learned through observation, through trial and error, through generations of people who noticed that homes built into the earth stayed warmer in winter and passed that knowledge down. The ground temperature, just a few feet below the surface, remains relatively constant throughout the year. This is a fact of geology, of physics. While the air temperature swings wildly hot in summer and freezing in winter, the earth below remains steady. Cool, yes, but not frozen, not burning, stable. While the air outside might be 20 degrees below freezing, the earth embraces the house. The soil presses against the lower walls. It holds them, insulates them, prevents the bitter air from stealing heat through every surface. The earth does not conduct cold the way air does. It holds temperature, moderates it. It acts as a massive thermal battery, a reservoir of stable temperature, a buffer between the extremes outside and the fragile warmth inside. During the day, what little heat is generated indoors seeps into the surrounding earth, and at night, that stored warmth radiates back, slowly, gently, keeping the floor from becoming ice. We are not just standing on the land, we are nestled into the planet itself, held by it, protected by it. The earth is not merely the foundation of this home, it is part of the home, part of the system that makes survival possible. Take a breath. Let that settle. Feel the ground beneath your feet, solid, old, patient. Now look at the walls, slowly. Let your eyes travel from the floor upward. These walls are close. The room is small. You could extend your arms and nearly touch both sides. The ceiling is low. If you are tall, you would have to stoop. Everything is compact, enclosed, designed to trap and hold every bit of warmth generated within. They are not stone. You might expect stone. Stone seems strong, permanent, protective. But stone has problems. Stone is heavy, difficult to work, expensive to transport. And in winter, stone becomes a liability. Stone is cold. Stone weeps moisture. Touch a stone wall in winter, and it will pull heat from your hand instantly. Moisture condenses on its surface. Frost forms. Stone does not breathe. It does not insulate. It holds cold as readily as it holds warmth. In a grand castle with massive fires and thick tapestries, stone can be managed. But in a cottage like this, stone would kill you. These walls are wattle-and-daub, two simple materials combined with extraordinary effectiveness. First, wattle, a framework, a skeleton, a woven lattice of hazel or willow sticks coated in a thick mixture of clay, sand, animal dung, and straw. The sticks are flexible when green. They are woven vertically between stronger posts, then woven horizontally, creating a tight basket-like structure. When it dries, it is rigid, strong enough to hold weight, flexible enough to move slightly with the house as it settles. Then comes the daub, mixed in a large pit, trampled by feet until it reaches the right consistency. Not too wet, not too dry, sticky, moldable. It is pressed into the wattle, filling every gap, smoothed with hands, with wooden tools, layered thick, sometimes 6 inches, sometimes more. When it dries, it hardens, not like brick, not like stone, but firm, solid, and remarkably effective. If you placed your hand against this wall right now, it would not feel icy. It would feel cool, yes, but not shockingly cold, not painful, not the kind of cold that makes you pull away immediately. It would feel neutral, almost alive, almost warm, perhaps even slightly warm, especially near the hearth, because this material holds heat, not forever, but long enough. The clay absorbs warmth from the fire, from the bodies in the room, from the animals, and it releases that warmth slowly, hour after hour, even as the fire burns low, even as night deepens. This material breathes, unlike stone, which traps moisture, or wood, which rots when damp. Daub is porous. Air moves through it slowly, imperceptibly, but it moves, and with that air, moisture moves too. In a small space filled with people, a fire and cooking steam, moisture is the enemy. Every breath you exhale contains water vapor. Every pot of boiling water releases steam. Every body sweats, even in cold. And in a tightly sealed room, that moisture has nowhere to go. It condenses, it drips, it soaks into fabric, into bedding, into clothing. And dampness, more than cold alone, is what kills. Dampness pulls heat from the body. Wet clothing loses its insulation. Wet bedding becomes unbearable. Wet skin chills rapidly. Damp air makes every breath feel colder. You can survive cold if you stay dry. But cold and wet together is how hypothermia begins. But these mud walls absorb moisture and release it slowly. They drink it in, hold it. Then, when the air dries, when the fire burns hotter, when the day warms slightly, they release it back, not as dripping water, but as vapor, gently, evenly. They regulate humidity naturally. No machines, no technology, just the interaction of materials, clay, straw, air, fire, all working together in a system refined over centuries. Primitive yet remarkably effective climate control. We use the word primitive as if it means inferior, unsophisticated, crude. But primitive simply means first, original. These walls represent knowledge that predates written records. Knowledge encoded not in books, but in the hands of builders. In the choices made by people who could not afford mistakes. Now look toward the window. It is small, so small you might have missed it at first. Just a rectangular opening, no larger than a book, set high in the wall, covered, dim. There is no glass. Glass exists. You could find it in a cathedral, in the home of a wealthy merchant, in a monastery. Thick, uneven glass, green tinted, full of bubbles. Expensive beyond measure, but not here, not in the peasant cottage. Glass is a luxury so far beyond reach it might as well be made of diamonds. Glass is for cathedrals and kings, for people who can afford to let light in without letting warmth out, for people who have glaziers and leaded frames and the money to repair what breaks, for people whose survival does not depend on keeping every wisp of heat inside. This opening is small, intentionally small. Every inch of window is a place where heat escapes, where cold presses in, where wind finds a way through, so the window is made only as large as absolutely necessary, just large enough to admit a little light. During the day, when the sun is out, when it exists at all during these short winter days, a thin beam of light slips through. It illuminates a small patch of floor, a corner of the room, just enough to work by, just enough to tell day from night. It is covered with oiled linen or stretched parchment, linen soaked in oil until it becomes translucent, or animal skin scraped thin and stretched tight across a frame. Both let light pass, both block wind. Neither is perfect. The linen tears, the parchment cracks in dry cold, but they are replaced, repaired, maintained. During the day, it lets in a soft, milky glow, not bright, not clear, but enough. Enough to see faces, to thread a needle, to move without stumbling. The light is diffused, gentle. It does not hurt the eyes. At night, during a storm like this, when darkness is complete, when the wind howls, when snow piles against the walls, when there is no moon, no stars, no light anywhere but the fire, the wooden shutters are closed tight, heavy shutters, solid wood, hinged on the inside, pulled closed and barred. They fit snugly into the window frame, blocking the opening almost completely. The cracks are stuffed with moss and old cloth. Every tiny gap, every place where air might slip through, packed tight, because even the smallest draught is a thief. It steals warmth. It makes the fire work harder. It makes sleep harder. It wastes fuel. We are sealed in. The door is closed. The window is shuttered. The smoke hole in the roof is the only opening, and even that is small. The cottage has become a capsule, a sealed environment, and inside this seal, warmth can be preserved. The cold presses against the walls, but it does not enter easily. It tries, it pushes, it finds cracks, it tests the door frame, but the walls hold, the shutters hold, and inside the temperature, though not warm by our standards, is survivable. Inside this small space, every design choice serves one purpose. Not beauty, not status, not fashion or tradition, just survival. To hold warmth, to create it with fire and bodies and breath, and then to hold it, to trap it, to prevent it from escaping into the infinite cold outside, to slow heat loss, because heat, once created, is precious. Fuel is limited, energy is finite, and so the cottage is designed not just to generate warmth, but to keep it, to make every log, every dried cowpat, every scrap of peat last as long as possible, to survive the night. That is the measure of success. Not comfort, not luxury, simply survival. Waking up in the morning, being alive, being able to move, to work, to continue. Move toward the center of the room, carefully. The floor is uneven, the light is dim. Shadows shift and dance with every flicker of the flame. Move slowly. There is no need to rush. There is nowhere to go. Nothing urgent to do. Just move, gently, toward the warmth. Here is the hearth. Not at the edge of the room. Not built into a wall. But here, in the center, the focal point. The reason everything else exists. This is the heart of the home. Not metaphorically. Literally. Just as a heart pumps blood to every part of the body, this fire sends warmth to every corner of the room. It is the source of heat, of light, of cooked food, of safety. Without it, this room would be uninhabitable. With it, life is possible. In 1350, the fire is not tucked into a wall. There is no chimney here. Chimneys exist in castles, in manor houses, in wealthy merchant homes, but they are complicated, expensive. They require skilled masons, proper stone, careful engineering, and even then, they can fill a room with smoke if the wind blows wrong. Here, there is no chimney, no flue, no bricks around. The fire burns openly, directly on the floor. A circle of stones marks the boundary, flat stones, river stones, arranged in a ring to contain the flames and protect the earthen floor from charring too deeply. Inside the ring, ash has accumulated over weeks, months, years perhaps. Layers of white and grey ash compacted and hard, and in the centre of that ash the fire burns. Not large, not roaring. A modest fire, controlled, fed carefully. This placement is intentional. Nothing in this cottage is accidental. Every choice has been tested, refined, passed down. And the decision to place the fire in the centre of the room is one of the most important. A wall fireplace sends heat in one direction, but a central hearth radiates warmth in every direction. Think of the fire as a candle. If you place a candle against a wall, half of its light is wasted, absorbed by the wall, lost. But place that candle in the centre of a room, and its light reaches everywhere equally. The same is true of heat. 360 degrees of heat, north, south, east, west. The fire does not favour one direction. It gives equally to all sides, to the family sitting close, to their animals resting beyond, to the walls themselves, which absorb the warmth and hold it. It allows the family to gather around it, to work, to eat, to rest. There is no best seat that monopolizes the warmth. Everyone can be close. Everyone can benefit. A woman can card wool on one side while a man repairs a tool on the other. Children can sit with their backs to the fire, soaking in heat, and everyone can see everyone else. This fire creates community simply by its placement. Listen, the fire speaks, not with words, but with sound. The snap of a twig, the hiss of sap escaping heated wood, the soft crumble of ash as a log shifts and settles, the gentle roar of air feeding flame. These are the sounds of warmth, of safety, of home. Look upward. Let your eyes follow the smoke. It rises in a thin, wavering column, grey, almost blue in places. It does not rush upward. It drifts, lazy, spreading as it rises. Smoke rises into the rafters, lingering before escaping through the roof. The roof is thatch, thick bundles of reeds and straw, layered and tied to a wooden frame. And at the peak, there is a gap, a small opening. Not large, not a proper vent, just an intentional imperfection. A place where the smoke can escape. Slowly, gradually, some of it lingers, caught in the thatch, caught in the still air near the roof. The room is never entirely clear. There is always a haze, a thickness to the air. Your eyes sting slightly, not painfully, but noticeably. The smoke irritates. It makes you blink more often, makes your throat feel dry. If you've been outside in clean air and then enter this cottage, the difference is sharp. But if you have lived here for days, weeks, you barely notice anymore. Your eyes adjust, your lungs adjust. But this smoke serves a purpose, many purposes. It is not waste. It is not a flaw in the design. It is part of the system. It hardens the timbers, kills insects, dries the thatch from the inside out. The wooden beams that hold up the roof are exposed, bare, and every day smoke washes over them. The creosote in the smoke coats the wood, preserves it, makes it harder, less likely to rot, less appealing to beetles and termites. The thatch, too, is constantly exposed to smoke. This keeps it dry. Mold cannot grow in smoke. Moisture is driven out. The thatch lasts longer, years longer than it would otherwise, and it preserves food hanging above us. Look up again, see the rafters, and hanging from them, suspended by cords and hooks, are strips of meat, fish, bundles of herbs. They hang in the smoke, day after day, week after week. The smoke dries them, flavors them, preserves them. Meat that would rot in days becomes food that lasts months. This is not inefficiency. We might look at this room and see backwardness, See a poorly designed space filled with smoke and animals and dirt. But that judgment comes from a place of comfort, of not needing to understand. It is survival knowledge earned over generations, knowledge that no one wrote down, knowledge that was learned by watching, by trying, by failing, by noticing what worked, what kept people alive through winter after winter after winter, and then teaching those lessons to children. Who taught their children? Who taught theirs? This smoke, this placement, this entire system. It is the result of centuries of refinement. Breathe slowly. Let your lungs adjust to the haze. This is the air of 1350. Now look at the fuel. What is burning? What keeps this fire alive? Wood is precious. There are trees, forests. You can see them from the village. But those trees do not belong to you. They belong to the Lord. The forest is his. The deer are his. The fallen branches are complicated. The forest belongs to the Lord, and only fallen branches may be gathered. This is forest law, strict, enforced. You may not cut a tree. You may not take a living branch. But if a branch falls naturally, in a storm, from age, from wind, then you may gather it, if you are caught, if you are seen, and if no one else has claimed it first. So wood is not abundant. It is gathered carefully, hoarded, used sparingly. So tonight the fire is fed with peat or dried animal dung. Peat, cut from bogs, dense, brown, heavy. It is not wood. It is compressed plant matter, moss and sedge and grass that has been decaying for hundreds of years. It is dug out in bricks, dried in the sun, stacked, and dung, cow dung, horse dung, collected, shaped into cakes, dried hard as stone. Both burn, not with the bright flame of wood, not with the same heat, but they burn. It burns slowly. A log of wood might burn in an hour, but a brick of peat can smolder for 3 hours. 4. Releasing heat the entire time. Steady, reliable. There are no sudden flares, no wild crackling, just a deep, even glow. Red embers beneath a thin crust of ash. Heat that radiates outward, hour after hour, without drama, giving off a deep, earthy heat. The smell is different from wood smoke. Richer, heavier. The smell of earth itself burning, ancient, organic. It fills the room, clings to clothes, to hair, to skin. You carry the smell with you wherever you go. Before sleeping, the fire will be banked. Embers covered gently with ash, kept alive until morning. This is a skill, an art. You do not simply let the fire burn down. You do not let it die. Because rekindling a fire from nothing, in the cold, in the dark, is difficult, dangerous, wasteful. Instead, you bank it. You take the glowing embers. You arrange them carefully in the center of the hearth. You cover them with a layer of ash. Not too thick, not too thin. Just enough to starve the flames without smothering the coals. Underneath that blanket of ash, the embers stay alive, glowing, breathing, waiting. If the fire dies, rekindling it in the cold and dark is dangerous. You would need a spark, flint and steel, tinder, dry moss, charred cloth, steady hands, patience. And even then, it might not catch. You might strike for minutes, for an hour, your hands numb, your fingers shaking. And all the while the cold creeps deeper into the room, so it never dies. From the moment this cottage was built, the fire has been tended, federal, banked, revived, passed from one generation to the next. It is not just a fire, it is the fire, continuity, memory, survival. Sit for a moment. Feel the heat on your face, on your hands. Let it soak in. This fire is not decoration. It is not ambiance. It is not a luxury. It is not something you enjoy when you feel like it. It is necessity. It is warmth. It is light. It is protection. It cooks your food. It dries your clothes. It keeps your children from freezing. It makes this space livable. It is life. Without it, there is only darkness and cold and the slow, patient cruelty of winter. You may notice the smell. It is not unpleasant, not foul, but it is strong, distinct, layered. If you were to walk into this cottage from the outside, the smell would hit you immediately, but after a few minutes, your nose adjusts. It becomes normal, familiar, the smell of home, earthy, warm, alive. There is the smoke, of course, peat smoke, wood smoke, the smell of burning dung, which is surprisingly mild, almost sweet. There is the smell of cooking, of pottage simmering, of bread baked hours ago, of herbs hanging in the rafters. And there is the smell of animals. We are not alone in this room. Not at all. This is not a human space that animals occasionally visit. This is a shared space, a communal space. Humans and animals together, living, breathing, surviving. In the darker end of the house, behind a low wooden barrier, the animals sleep with us. The barrier is simple, just planks nailed between two posts, low enough to step over if you need to, high enough to keep the animals mostly contained. It divides the room, not completely, but enough. A cow, perhaps an ox, a few chickens perched quietly above the ground. The cow is large, dark. Her breath is loud in the quiet room, a slow, rhythmic sound, in, out. Her body is warm. You can feel the heat radiating from her even from several feet away. She shifts occasionally, hooves scraping on the packed earth, her tail swishing slowly. The chickens are roosting, perched on a beam set low against the wall. Their heads are tucked under their wings. They are silent now. Occasionally, one shifts, fluffs its feathers, but mostly they are still. To us, this may seem uncomfortable. We have been taught to separate. Humans inside, animals outside, barns for beasts, homes for people. The idea of sharing a sleeping space with a cow seems unsanitary, unpleasant, primitive. To them, and to us, it is survival. Not a choice made out of ignorance, not a failure of planning, but a deliberate decision. A strategy, one that has been tested and proven over countless winters. Think of the cow not as livestock, but as heat. That is what she is, in this moment. Not a source of milk, not future labor in the fields, but a furnace, a biological furnace, a living furnace. Her body temperature is over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, higher than yours, and she maintains that temperature constantly, not by burning fuel in a hearth, but by digesting food, by breathing, by simply being alive. A 1,000-pound body generates constant warmth simply by breathing and digesting food. She ate today, hay, dried grass, stored fodder. Her stomach is working now, fermenting, breaking down cellulose, extracting energy, and that process generates heat, enormous amounts of heat. In this small, enclosed space, that heat matters. Think about the volume of this room. It is small, perhaps 12 feet by 16, low ceiling, tight. And in this small volume, the cow's body heat makes a measurable difference. It raises the temperature of the room by 10, sometimes 15 degrees. 10 degrees. That is the difference between sleeping comfortably and shivering through the night. That is the difference between waking stiff and sore and waking able to work. That is the difference between children staying healthy and children getting sick. 15 degrees in the coldest hours before dawn, when the fire is banked low. when the outside temperature has dropped to its minimum. That 15 degrees is survival. That difference can mean sleep or shivering through the night. Sleep is not optional. Sleep is recovery, restoration. The body repairs itself during sleep. The mind rests. Without sleep, you cannot work. You cannot think clearly. You make mistakes. And in winter, mistakes can be deadly. Let your eyes adjust to the dim corner where the animals rest. See the cow silhouette, the gentle rise and fall of her massive side as she breathes. Bringing animals indoors protects them from wolves and frost. Wolves still roam these forests, hungry, bold in winter. A cow left outside, even in a fenced pasture, is at risk. And frost can kill, especially young animals, chickens, lambs. Even a hardy cow can suffer frostbite, lose ears, lose a tail, lose her life if the cold is severe enough. But it also protects the family. This is symbiosis, mutual survival. The cow is safer inside. The family is warmer with the cow inside. Both benefit. Their breath warms the air. Their bodies radiate steady heat. Their presence stabilizes the room. Every breath the cow exhales contains water vapor. Warm water vapor. It mixes with the air, raises the humidity slightly, and warm, slightly humid air feels warmer than cold, dry air. The chickens too. Small, but their bodies are warm. Their feathers trap heat. This is not filth. Yes, there is manure. It is swept up regularly, removed, used on the fields. The animals are kept as clean as possible. Straw is replaced. The space is maintained. This is efficiency, a word we associate with machines, with modern systems. But efficiency is ancient. It is using every resource, wasting nothing, making every element serve multiple purposes, a shared ecosystem. The family provides shelter. The animals provide warmth. The fire provides heat for both. The walls protect all. The roof covers everyone. Every part depends on every other part. Listen to the cow breathe. Long, slow breaths. A rhythm older than language. Their survival ensures ours. If the cow dies, the family loses heat, loses milk, loses the ability to plow in spring. The cow is not just an animal. She is a vital part of the survival system, and ours ensures theirs. If the family dies, the cow dies too. Unmilked, unfed, unprotected. We need each other. In winter, no warmth is wasted. Not the fire's heat, not the animal's body heat, not even the warmth of your own breath. Everything is preserved, captured, used, because warmth is life, and life must be defended. The fire warms the room, but to survive the cold, we must warm the body. The room can only get so warm, even with the fire burning, even with the animals, even with the walls sealed tight. The temperature inside might be 50 degrees, 60 if you are lucky. That is livable, but it is not comfortable, not by itself. The body must generate heat, must preserve it, and that requires fuel. Dinner tonight is pottage, not a special meal, not a feast, just dinner. The same dinner as last night, and the night before, and likely tomorrow night. It has been simmering all day, and likely for days before that. The pot hangs over the fire, an iron pot, heavy, black with soot, suspended from a hook that can be raised or lowered to control the heat. It has been there since morning, since yesterday morning, perhaps longer. A single pot, never fully emptied, always replenished. This is how cooking works in 1350. You do not start fresh each meal. You do not clean the pot and begin again. Instead, you maintain the pot. You eat from it, and then you add new ingredients, more water, more vegetables, more grain. The pot is continuous, perpetual. Inside it are dried peas and beans. onions and leeks pulled from the soil months ago. The peas and beans were harvested in late summer, dried in the sun until hard as pebbles, stored in sacks. They last indefinitely if kept dry. Tonight, they have been soaking in the pot for hours, softening, swelling, releasing their starches into the water. The onions are withered now, their outer layers papery and brown, but inside they are still good, still pungent. The leeks too, a bit soft, a bit aged, but edible. Tonight there is something more, a special addition, not an everyday ingredient, something saved, rationed, brought out because the cold is particularly harsh, because bodies need more fuel. Salted pork, meat, protein, fat, precious, slaughtered in autumn, cured in salt, hung in the rafters where smoke preserves it. The pig was killed in November, before the first hard freeze. Every part of the animal was used. The meat was cut into strips, rubbed heavily with salt, packed in barrels, or hung in the smoke. The fat was rendered into lard. The bones were boiled for broth. The blood was made into sausage. Nothing was wasted. The piece added to the pot tonight is small, a few ounces, not a thick chop, not a generous portion, just enough to flavor the pottage, to add richness. The fat melts into the stew, fuel for the body. As the pork simmers, its fat renders out, white, glistening. It floats on the surface of the pottage, swirls, coats the vegetables, and when you eat, that fat enters your body. It is dense energy, calories. Your body burns it for heat, for movement, for staying alive. The pottage is ready. It has been ready for hours. It is always ready. This food is not for pleasure. There is no menu, no choice, no variety. This is not a meal to be enjoyed in the way we think of enjoyment. It is not seasoned with exotic spices. It is not presented beautifully. It is not Instagrammable. It is energy. That is its purpose. To provide calories, to fuel the body, to keep you warm from the inside. Calories that keep fingers moving and blood warm through the night. Every spoonful is fuel. The carbohydrates in the peas and beans, the protein in the pork, the fat, all of it is converted by your body into heat, into energy, into the ability to survive. The pottage is eaten slowly, one spoonful at a time, until the bowls are scraped nearly clean. There is no rushing, no seconds, no clock to watch. Eating is deliberate here, measured. Every bite matters. When the stew is finished, bread is brought out. A dark loaf, dense and heavy in the hand. This is maslin bread, a mixture of rye and wheat. Wheat alone is too expensive for most families. Rye is hardier, able to grow in poorer soil, able to survive colder weather. Mixed together, they produce a bread that is filling, durable, and slow to spoil. It is not soft. It does not tear easily. You must work to eat it. The crust is firm, the inside tight and compact. Each bite requires chewing, slow and steady, forcing you to eat at a pace your body can keep up with. This bread does not disappear quickly. It sits in the stomach, grounds you, anchors you. It is food meant to last. A small knife cuts thick slices, not thin ones. Each person receives a portion, roughly equal. No one eats more than their share. No one wastes a crumb. Bread is dipped into the last of the stew, soaking up the broth, the fat, the remnants of peas and onions clinging to the wood of the bowl. Nothing is left behind. Alongside the bread comes drink, not water. Water is uncertain in winter. Wells can freeze. Streams can carry sickness. Snowmelt is unreliable. But ale is safe. This is small ale. weak in alcohol, strong in nourishment, brewed from grain, boiled during the process, making it safer to drink than water, thick, cloudy, slightly sour, barely intoxicating, but filling. Children drink it, elderly drink it, everyone drinks it. A wooden cup is passed. Each person drinks slowly, not deeply. The liquid is cool, but as it settles in the stomach, it adds to the warmth already building there. Bread, stew, ale. Together, they complete the meal. Inside the body, something important is happening. The food settles, digestion begins. The stomach works steadily, breaking down what it has received. Calories are released. Energy becomes available. Heat begins to spread. It starts deep in the core, behind the ribs. A subtle warmth at first, then stronger, slowly radiating outward, to the chest, to the shoulders, down the arms, into the hands, into the legs, into the feet. This is the internal fire. The hearth warms the air, but this warmth comes from within, from food converted into energy, from fat burned slowly, from grain turned into fuel. It is this warmth that will carry you through the night, because the fire will not burn high forever. Soon the flames will be lowered, the embers banked, the room will cool, and when that happens, it is the warmth inside your body, created now, preserved now, that matters most. This meal is not indulgence, it is preparation. You eat not until you are full, but until you are ready. Ready for the long hours ahead, ready for stillness, ready for sleep. As the last crumbs are eaten and the cups are set aside, conversation fades. The work of eating is finished. The body is warm, and night begins to settle fully over the cottage. As the meal ends, the fire is tended once more. Not fed heavily, not allowed to flare, just adjusted, nudged, brought under control. The pot is moved to the edge of the hearth, where it will keep warm without stealing too much heat. The flames settle lower, the crackle softens, the glow becomes steadier, quieter, and slowly the room begins to cool. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but in small, almost unnoticeable increments, a degree at a time, the kind of cooling that creeps in rather than announces itself. Outside, the cold deepens. The storm has not eased. The wind still presses against the walls. Snow continues to fall, piling higher, insulating the world outside in silence. Inside, the cottage no longer creates heat. Now it must preserve it. This is when clothing becomes essential, not as decoration, not as status, but as survival. Closest to the skin is linen, a simple shirt, or a shift, woven from flax, softened by years of washing, loose enough to move in, smooth against the body. Its purpose is quiet but critical. Throughout the day, the body sweats. Even in winter, even in cold, work creates heat, and heat creates moisture. If that moisture stays against the skin, it steals warmth as soon as activity stops. Linen absorbs it. It draws moisture away from the skin and holds it in the fabric, allowing the body to remain dry. Dry skin holds heat. Damp skin loses it rapidly. In winter, dryness is safety. Over the linen comes wool, not one layer but several. First, a woolen kirtle, heavy, thick, long enough to cover the legs. It traps air close to the body, forming a barrier between skin and cold. Then another layer, a tunic, a gown, more wool. Each layer adds protection. Each one traps another pocket of air. Wool is not smooth. Its fibers curl and crimp. They refuse to lie flat. That is its strength. Between those twisted fibers, air becomes trapped. Thousands of tiny pockets, warmed by the body, held in place. Still air resists the cold. It slows the escape of heat. Even when wool becomes damp, it continues to insulate. It does not collapse against the skin the way other fabrics do. It continues to protect. In the coldest weeks of winter, every piece of wool you own is worn at once. Nothing is saved for later. Later is not guaranteed. A hood is pulled over the head, not a hat. A hood that wraps around the neck and frames the face. The head is one of the greatest sources of heat loss. Blood flows close to the surface. Heat escapes quickly if left uncovered, so the hood stays on, even indoors, even near the fire, especially near the fire, where the rest of the body feels warm enough to forget how vulnerable the head remains. The neck is covered, the wrists, the ankles. Anywhere blood flows close to the skin is protected. The feet are wrapped in woolen hose, pulled high and secured. Inside leather shoes, dry straw or moss is packed tightly. Another layer of trapped air. Another defense against the cold seeping up from the earth. The ground steals heat relentlessly. If the feet are cold, the whole body follows. This is not excess. This is a system. Every layer works with the others. Linen managing moisture, wool trapping warmth, leather blocking wind, straw insulating against the ground. Together they form armor. Not armor against blades or arrows. Armor against something quieter, slower, far more patient. The cold does not attack. It waits. And clothing is what keeps it at bay. As the fire settles and the room cools further, the layers do their work. Heat is held close. Breath slows. Movement becomes minimal. The body, wrapped and insulated, prepares for rest. Night has fully arrived. Night has fully settled. The shutters are closed tight. The door is barred. The last light from the hearth glows low and steady, barely bright enough to throw shadows across the walls. Outside, the storm continues. Wind presses against the cottage. Snow piles higher. The world beyond these walls is silent, frozen, unreachable. Inside, everything slows. There is no more work to do, no more light to work by, no more heat to create. Everything that could be prepared has been prepared. Everything that could be done has been done. Now comes rest. Sleep does not arrive all at once. Not here. Not in this time. Sleep in the year 1350 comes in pieces. The first sleep begins soon after darkness fully takes hold. Winter nights are long. Without candles to waste, without light to extend the day, people sleep when night arrives. Bodies gather together. The bed is simple. A wooden frame strung with rope. A mattress stuffed with straw, sometimes wool if the family is fortunate. Uneven, lumpy, but raised from the ground. Blankets are pulled close. Woolen cloaks are used as covers. Children are pressed between adults, not for comfort alone, but for warmth. Body heat is shared. No one sleeps alone. Breathing slows. Muscles relax. The warmth of the meal, the fire, the animals, and the layered clothing carries the body into rest. This first sleep is deep, the deepest of the night. The body repairs itself here. Strength returns. Fatigue drains away. Outside, the cold continues its patient work, but inside the cottage holds. Hours pass, uncounted, unmeasured. There are no clocks, no bells, only darkness. Then quietly, eyes begin to open, not from fear, not from cold, but from habit. This waking is expected. It is normal. It is the watch. One person stirs, then another. The room is still dark. The fire glows faintly beneath its blanket of ash. The animals shift softly in their sleep. Someone rises carefully. Feet touch the cold floor. The chill is immediate, sharp, but brief. Ash is brushed aside. The embers beneath still glow, barely. A breath, gentle and controlled, brings them brighter. A small piece of fuel is added, not much, just enough to revive warmth without wasting it. The fire answers quietly. No rush, no urgency. This time between sleeps belongs to stillness. Some pray, quiet words spoken under the breath. Thanks for warmth, for food, for surviving another night. Others sit and stare into the embers, thinking, remembering, planning the work of tomorrow. The cottage is full of soft sounds, breathing, shifting straw, the creak of wood, the slow exhale of the animals. These sounds are not disturbing. They are reassuring. They mean life. After a time, the fire is settled again. The embers are covered. The person returns to the bed. Second sleep begins. Lighter than the first, shorter, but enough. The cold presses hardest now. The hours before dawn are the coldest of all. Outside, frost tightens its grip. Snow hardens. The world holds its breath. Inside, warmth is preserved. Bodies remain still. Breath is slow. The layers of wool, the shared heat, the banked fire, the presence of animals. All of it works together. The cottage holds. Morning will come. It always does. Morning arrives slowly, not with a sound, not with a signal, but with a change in the dark. The blackness softens. Deep black becomes charcoal. Charcoal fades into grey. And then, almost imperceptibly, light returns. It seeps through the cracks around the shutters, through the smoke hole in the roof, pale, cold, quiet. The storm has passed. Sometime during the night, the wind eased. The snow stopped falling. Outside, the world is buried beneath a fresh, unbroken layer of white. Sound is muted. The land is still. Inside the cottage, someone stirs. A breath, a shift of weight, eyes open. The fire is the first concern. Ash is brushed aside carefully. Beneath it, the embers still glow. Faint, fragile, but alive. A gentle breath brings them brighter. Dry twigs are added. Bark. Thin kindling saved for this moment. Smoke rises first, then flame. Small at first, then stronger. Yellow light flickers across the walls. Warmth returns. The heart of the home survives another night. As the fire grows, shadows retreat. Faces become visible again. The shape of the room re-emerges. The animals stir. The cow rises slowly. Chickens flutter down from their roosts. The day begins again. There is no pause between survival and work. The fire must be fed. Water must be fetched if the well has not frozen. Food must be prepared. Animals tended. Clothing mended. Fuel gathered where it can be found. The cold has not left. Winter is not finished. But warmth has returned. The fire burns. Bodies move. Blood flows. Life continues. What was done yesterday will be done again today, and tomorrow, and the day after that. This is how winter is survived, not through victory, not through comfort, but through repetition, attention, care. The same small actions done faithfully every day. And because of that, the cottage lives another morning. Life in the year 1350 was not dramatic. There were no speeches, no music swelling in the background, no moment where winter was conquered or defeated. There was only endurance, only the quiet understanding that survival came from attention, from care, from noticing small things before they became dangerous, a fire that needed tending, a child who needed another layer, a draft that needed sealing, a pot that needed more water. Winter did not test courage. It tested patience. It tested whether people could do the same necessary things again and again, without applause, without reward, without certainty that it would be enough. And most of the time, it was. Not because life was easy, but because knowledge was carried forward, passed from parent to child, from neighbor to neighbor, from one long winter to the next. People learned how to trap warmth, how to store food, how to share space, how to waste nothing. They learned that survival was not individual, it was communal. The fire did not belong to one person. The warmth was shared. The animals were brought inside. Bodies slept close together. Breath warmed breath. Everything worked together, or nothing worked at all. And because of that, morning came. Again and again, through storms, through hunger, through cold that pressed against the walls night after night. The fire was never allowed to die. Not because it was beautiful, but because it was life. And in that quiet persistence, in that refusal to let the embers go out, there is something deeply human, something steady, something worth remembering. So as you return to your own warmth, your own light, your own quiet spaces, remember this small cottage. Remember the care it required. Remember the patience. And remember the fire, the small fire that never went out.